if you take Amlodipine, Losartan, or Lisinopril, there is a very good chance you're making at least one medication mistake that seems tiny, feels harmless, and yet can quietly raise your risk of dizziness, fainting, kidney trouble, dangerously high potassium, or blood pressure that looks controlled when it absolutely is not. And the part that worries me most is that seniors often make these mistakes with the best intentions. They are trying to be careful. They are trying to stay healthy. They are trying to follow instructions. But one simple misunderstanding with these medicines can change everything. I'm Dr. Elisa Wright, and today I need to walk you through the daily habits that trip seniors up again and again with these 3 very common blood pressure medications. Because when a reading is off, when swelling gets ignored, when a missed dose gets handled the wrong way, or when 2 medications that should not be casually mixed end up taken together, the consequences can be far more serious than most people realize. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what mistakes to avoid, what warning signs to respect, and why mistake number 1 is the one that can send a senior from "I feel fine" to "I need emergency help" faster than they ever expected. Subscribe now for clear senior health guidance that protects your heart, steadies blood pressure, and helps you avoid daily mistakes. Before we get to mistake number 11, I need you to understand something essential about Amlodipine, Losartan, and Lisinopril. These are not casual pills. They are not like taking a vitamin and forgetting about it. These medicines change how your blood vessels behave, how your kidneys handle fluid, how your body manages pressure, and in the case of Losartan and Lisinopril, even how your potassium balance can shift. That means the medicine itself may be correct. The prescription may be correct, but the way you take it every day can still turn a smart treatment plan into a dangerous one. Let me start with Evelyn, because her story reveals mistake number 11 in a way seniors instantly understand. Evelyn was 73, organized, independent, and proud of the fact that she never missed her blood pressure medicine. She took her pills every day, kept them right next to the coffee maker, and considered herself extremely consistent. But over a few months, she began noticing that some mornings she felt light-aided when she stood up. Not every morning, just enough to worry her. She blamed age at first, then poor sleep, then maybe not eating enough. What she never suspected was that the problem had less to do with the medicine itself and more to do with when she was taking it. Mistake number 11 is taking your medication at inconsistent times and then wondering why your body feels inconsistent too. This matters more than people think. And Losartan and Lisinopril are often prescribed to be taken on a regular, once daily schedule. Not whenever you remember, not sometime before lunch if the day gets busy. Not double careful on weekdays and a little loose on weekends. These medicines work best when your body receives them in a steady rhythm. When the timing jumps around, the effect can feel uneven. One day, you're undertreated for part of the day. Another day, the medication may hit harder than expected. Seniors are especially vulnerable because balance, hydration, and blood pressure stability are already more delicate than they were at 50. Evelyn would take her pill at 7 a.m. some days, noon on others, and after dinner when she forgot in the morning. She thought, well, I took it, that's what matters. But once her schedule tightened and she took it at the same time every day, her dizziness improved dramatically. And here is the bigger lesson. When you are trying to judge whether a medicine is working, you, need consistency before you need conclusions. Otherwise, you are not really measuring the medication. You are measuring your routine, and a sloppy routine can make a good prescription look bad. Now, mistake number 10 is even more common because it happens the moment a senior realizes a dose was missed. And in that moment, panic takes over. Let me tell you about Walter. Walter was 78. Careful with numbers, careful with appointments, careful with every bottle in his cabinet. One afternoon, he looked at his pillbox and froze. He couldn't remember if he had taken his Lortin that morning. The more he thought about it, the less sure he became. So he did what many people do when fear starts driving the decision. He took one, then later that evening convinced himself he had probably missed the first dose and took another. Mistake number 10 is doubling up after a missed dose or taking an extra just to be safe. This is one of the fastest ways to create trouble, especially for seniors already sensitive to drops in blood pressure. With Amlodipine, taking extra can increase the risk of dizziness, flushing, weakness, and fainting. With Losartan and Lisinopril, extra dosing can push blood pressure down too far and may increase the risk of kidney stress or dangerous electrolyte shifts. The cruel part is that seniors usually do this because they are trying to be responsible. They think the missed dose is the emergency, but often the extra dose becomes the real emergency. Walter ended up standing from his recliner, taking 3 steps and nearly collapsing. His blood pressure had dropped far lower than his body could comfortably handle. He didn't need more medication. He needed a better missed dose plan. And the rule is this: never improvise. If you remember a missed dose, the correct response depends on how close you are to the next scheduled dose and which medication you're taking. But one rule is beautifully simple. Do not take 2 doses just to catch up. That little act of correction is one of the most common medication mistakes seniors make every single day. But there is a quieter mistake that is even more dangerous because it doesn't feel like a mistake at all. It feels logical. It feels sensible. It feels, in fact, like taking control. Let me tell you about Dorothy. Dorothy had been on Amlodipine for several months. Her blood pressure readings improved. She felt good. Her headaches were gone. She stopped getting those pounding sensations in her temples. So she looked at the bottle one morning and thought something many seniors think. Maybe I don't need this anymore. She didn't call anyone. She didn't ask her doctor. She simply stopped. Mistake number 9 is stopping your medication because you feel better or because your blood pressure numbers finally improved. This is such a trap. These medications often help you feel better because they are working. The absence of symptoms does not mean the condition disappeared. High blood pressure is ruthless that way. It can damage the brain, heart, kidneys, and blood vessels while you feel perfectly normal. When seniors stop Amlodipine, Losartan, or Lisinopril on their own, the pressure that was being controlled can begin creeping back up. Sometimes it rises quietly. Sometimes it bounces back harder than expected, and that means the stroke risk, heart strain, and kidney damage risk return right along with it. Dorothy thought she had solved the problem. 2 weeks later, her blood pressure was higher than before treatment began. She felt anxious, blamed the monitor, and eventually needed an urgent medication review. What went wrong was not mysterious. She confused control with cure. And I need every senior listening to hear this clearly. If your doctor has prescribed one of these medications, do not stop just because you feel well. Feeling well may be the evidence that the treatment is doing its job. That is why mistake number 8 matters so much, because it happens when seniors feel bad instead of good. Let me tell you about Frank. Frank started Lisinopril and within days noticed an annoying dry cough. Nothing dramatic, just a persistent tickle in the throat that kept showing up at night, during phone calls, and in church. He found it embarrassing. He found it irritating. He found it exhausting. But instead of calling his doctor, he did what so many seniors do. He tried to power through it. Then he tried over-the-counter cough syrups. Then he tried ignoring it. He kept saying, "It's probably nothing." And that mindset is exactly what makes mistake number 8 so risky. Mistake number 8 is ignoring side effects that are common enough to matter and serious enough to deserve attention. Lisinopril is especially important here because a persistent dry cough is a known issue for some people. Not everyone gets it, but when it appears and lingers, it is not something seniors should just accept in silence. Amlodipine often brings swelling in the ankles or feet. Losartan and Lisinopril can cause dizziness, especially when a senior stands up too fast or becomes dehydrated. And with Lisinopril, there is a rare but serious swelling reaction involving the lips, face, tongue, or throat. If that happens, that is no longer a wait-and-see situation. That is urgent. Frank kept treating his cough like a personality flaw instead of a medication clue. Once his doctor switched his plan, the cough gradually improved and his blood pressure remained controlled. That is the lesson. Side effects are not a sign that you are weak. They are not proof that you are difficult. They are information. Some side effects are manageable. Some mean the dose needs adjustment. Some mean the drug needs to change. But ignoring them because you don't want to bother anyone, that is one of the most dangerous habits seniors carry into blood pressure treatment. Now we move to mistake number 7. And this one can lead directly to falls. Falls for seniors are not small events. A fall can mean a fracture, a hospitalization, a loss of confidence, or a permanent change in independence. Let me tell you about Helen. Helen had been taking Losartan for a few weeks. Every morning she would wake, swing her feet over the side of the bed, and stand immediately. Not carefully, not gradually. She stood like she had at 45. And some mornings she felt a quick wave of dizziness, a blur, a wobble, a sinking sensation. She dismissed it, just getting older, as she told herself. Mistake number 7 is standing up too fast and underestimating how these medications can amplify blood pressure drops when you change position. This is especially common when a medication is first started, when a dose has been increased, or when a senior is also taking a water pill, not drinking enough, or has been sick. The blood pressure that looks perfectly fine while lying down or sitting can feel very different when gravity suddenly shifts. Losartan and Lisinopril can both contribute to this. Amlodipine can as well. The sensation may last only seconds, which is exactly why seniors ignore it, but those few seconds are enough time to hit the floor. Helen eventually fell against a hallway table. Thankfully, she wasn't badly hurt. But what saved her from the next fall was not a new prescription. It was a new habit. Sit first. Pause. Put both feet on the floor. Stand slowly. Hold the bed or chair. Give the body time to adjust. If you feel dizzy, do not push through it. That old idea that you should walk it off can be dangerous when blood pressure medication is involved. And here is the deeper point. These drugs do not just affect numbers on a monitor. They affect how you move through your house, how safely you shower, and how confidently you stand. Mistake number 6 is one of the sneakiest because it hides in the kitchen. I wish more seniors knew this one because it sounds healthy at first. It sounds like they are making a heart's smart choice. Let me tell you about Marion. Marion had been told to cut back on sodium, so she proudly replaced regular salt with a low-sodium salt substitute. She used it on eggs, soups, vegetables, even tomatoes. She felt virtuous. She felt disciplined. She felt, frankly, like she was doing everything right. But within weeks, she felt weak, odd, a little nauseated, and occasionally aware of her heartbeat in a way that frightened her. What she didn't know was that her healthy switch was putting her at risk. Mistake number 6 is using potassium salt substitutes or potassium supplements without checking whether your medication already raises potassium levels. This is a big one for Losartan and Lisinopril. These medicines can increase potassium in the blood. For many people, that never becomes dangerous. But in seniors, especially those with kidney issues, dehydration, diabetes, or multiple medications, the risk becomes much more important. Now, add a salt substitute made with potassium or an over-the-counter potassium supplement, and suddenly you may be stacking potassium from several directions at once. The symptoms can be vague at first: weakness, nausea, strange heart sensations, fatigue, and because they feel non-specific, as seniors often don't connect them to the medicine. Marion's doctor reviewed her routine and found the culprit quickly. It wasn't the medication alone. It was the medication plus the hidden potassium she had added every day with excellent intentions. This is why I tell seniors never to assume a supplement is harmless just because it is sold without a prescription. Natural does not mean safe. Low sodium does not mean appropriate. If you take Losartan or Lisinopril, anything containing potassium deserves a second look. And this brings us to mistake number 5, which lives right beside those salt substitutes in many homes, sitting innocently in bathroom cabinets and kitchen drawers. Let me tell you about Robert. Robert had arthritis in his knees and lower back. On bad days, he reached for ibuprofen. On worse days, naproxen. Nothing unusual, nothing dramatic, just common pain relievers millions of people use. He never thought of them as part of his blood pressure story. They were for pain, not pressure. But over time, his readings became less predictable, and his lab work showed changes that worried his doctor. Robert was shocked. He had not changed his prescription medication. He had not missed doses. He had not changed his diet much at all. What had changed was the frequency of those over-the-counter pills. Mistake number 5 is taking NSAID pain relievers like ibuprofen or naproxen regularly without realizing they can interfere with Losartan or Lisinopril and increase kidney risk. This is one of the most overlooked medication interactions seniors face with ACCE inhibitors like Lisinopril and ARBs like Losartan. NSAIDs can be a problem, especially when dehydration or diuretics are also in the picture. That combination can put extra stress on the kidneys and may make the blood pressure treatment less safe. Many seniors don't tell their doctor about over-the-counter medicines because they don't think those count, but they absolutely count. And when the kidneys are involved, the difference between I took it once and I take it most afternoons matters very much. Robert needed a new pain plan and closer monitoring. The issue was not that he had done something reckless. The issue was that nobody had explained the connection in plain language. So, let me say it plainly. If you take Losartan or Lisinopril, do not make a habit of taking NSAIDs without your doctor knowing about it. The bottle may be common. The advertisement may make it seem routine, but routine is not the same as harmless. And mistake number 4 is just as common because it happens in hot weather, during stomach bugs, and after nights when seniors simply forget to drink enough water. Let me tell you about Sylvia. It was July, hot, sticky, miserable. Sylvia loved gardening, and even though her family told her to take it easy, she spent 2 hours outside trimming, watering, and pulling weeds. She drank some coffee that morning, not much water, and took her lysine as usual. By noon, she felt washed out, dizzy, and strangely weak. She thought maybe it was the heat. She thought maybe she had overdone it. She was right, but not in the way she thought. The real problem was that dehydration had changed how her medication was affecting her body. Mistake number 4 is underestimating dehydration, vomiting, diarrhea, sweating, and hot weather while taking Losartan or Lisinopril. When you lose too much fluid, blood pressure can drop too low, kidneys can become stressed, and a medication that is normally well tolerated can suddenly hit a senior much harder. This is especially important for people taking water pills too. But even without them, dehydration matters. Severe diarrhea, repeated vomiting, intense sweating, or simply not drinking enough in extreme heat can change the entire safety profile of these medicines for that day. And seniors often miss the early warning signs because the symptoms feel ordinary. Tired, weak, a little light-aided, a little off. But a little off is sometimes how serious problems begin. Sylvia ended up needing medical advice, lab checks, and a conversation she wished someone had given her years earlier. If you become sick with vomiting or diarrhea, if you are losing fluid quickly, if you are in extreme heat, or if you're sweating far more than usual, do not just keep swallowing your medication on autopilot and hoping for the best. You may need guidance about what to do temporarily, and that guidance must come from your healthcare team. Autopilot is dangerous here, and that leads us to mistake number 3, which is the mistake seniors make because they feel okay, and therefore assume nothing needs check-in. Let me tell you about George. George hated lab tests, hated them. He didn't like the drive, didn't like the waiting room, didn't like the needle, and didn't like rearranging his day. So when his doctor wanted follow-up blood work after starting Losartan, George delayed it, then delayed it again. He said, "If something were wrong, I'd feel it." That sentence sounds reasonable. It sounds practical. It sounds like common sense. But it is one of the most dangerous beliefs a senior can bring into treatment with Losartan or Lisinopril, because sometimes the problems these medications can cause do not announce themselves early. Mistake number 3 is skipping blood tests and follow-up monitoring because you assume symptoms will warn you in time. With Losartan and Lisinopril, doctors often monitor kidney function and potassium. Not because the medication is bad, but because the medication interacts with body systems that deserve watching, especially in older adults. Some seniors do beautifully on these drugs for years. Others develop issues that are mild and easily fixed if caught early. But if you skip the blood work, you take away the very tool that catches small problems before they become big ones. And when seniors say, "I feel fine," I always remind them that many dangerous lab changes do not start with dramatic symptoms. George's labs eventually showed changes that needed attention. Thankfully, they were caught before a crisis developed. But his story reveals something important. Good medication management is not just swallowing the pill, it is the whole system around the pill. The prescription, the routine, the hydration, the interactions, the blood tests, the follow-up. Remove one piece and the whole structure becomes less safe. And now we get to mistake number 2, which is subtle, uncomfortable, and often brushed aside because seniors don't want to sound dramatic. But it is exactly the kind of symptom that can predict a much bigger problem if ignored. Let me tell you about Irene. Irene started Lisinopril and one morning noticed her lower lip looked a little swollen. Not huge, not movie scene dramatic, just different. By afternoon, it had improved. She told herself maybe she bit her lip in her sleep. A week later, it happened again, this time with a strange puffiness around her mouth. She almost didn't mention it because she feared sounding silly. But what Irene was seeing was not silly. It was not cosmetic. It was not random. It was a warning sign, and one seniors must never minimize. Mistake number 2 is ignoring swelling of the lips, face, tongue, or throat, or brushing off trouble breathing or swallowing as probably nothing. With Lisinopril especially, a serious swelling reaction called angioedema can occur. It may begin mildly. It may not feel urgent at first, but if the tongue or throat becomes involved, this can become life-threatening. And because seniors often pride themselves on being stoic, they delay, they wait, they watch, they hope. That is exactly the wrong instinct here. If you develop swelling of the face, mouth, lips, tongue, or throat, or if breathing or swallowing becomes difficult, do not sit there wondering whether you are overreacting. You are not. That situation, deserves urgent medical attention. Irene was fortunate. She called, got evaluated, and the medication was changed before a severe event occurred. But there is something even more important hidden in her story. She almost talked herself out of taking the symptoms seriously because it seemed too small, too odd, too inconsistent. Seniors do this all the time. They wait for symptoms to become dramatic before respecting them. Please don't. The body often whispers before it screams. And now we have arrived at mistake number 1. The most dangerous, most misunderstood, and most consequential medication error seniors make with Amlodipine, Losartan and Lisinopril, especially when they are trying to manage complicated routines. Are you ready? Mistake number 1 is assuming blood pressure medicines are interchangeable and combining them, swapping them, or adding leftover doses without understanding that Losartan and Lisinopril are not meant to be casually used together. This is the one that scares me most because unlike some of the earlier mistakes, this one can quietly create multiple problems at once. Seniors sometimes say, well, one of these ends in pril, one ends in sartan. Both are for blood pressure. My numbers were high, so maybe taking both would help. Or they had an old bottle in the cabinet. Or a prescription changed months ago and the previous medicine never got thrown away. Or a family member says, I take that one too. And just like that, a senior starts stacking medications without realizing the risk. Losartan is an ARB. Lisinopril is an ACCE inhibitor. They both affect the body's renin-angiotensin system, just through different steps. That may sound technical, but here is the simple version. They overlap in what they do. And using both together without specific medical direction is not something seniors should improvise. Why? Because the combination can raise the risk of low blood pressure, high potassium, and kidney problems. A senior may think more blood pressure medicine means better blood pressure control. But with these two, that logic can fail badly. More is not smarter here. More can be dangerous, and the damage may build before you feel it clearly. Let me tell you about Leonard, because his story brings everything together. Leonard was 76, had several bottles in his medicine drawer, and had recently been switched from Lisinopril to Losartan after developing a bothersome cough. The instructions were given. The plan was clear. Stop the Lisinopril. Start the Losartan. Simple, except Leonard kept the old bottle because, in his words, no point wasting good medicine. A week later, he had a few high home blood pressure readings. He got nervous. He didn't trust the new pill yet, so he began taking the leftover lysine occasionally for backup. That single decision, created the perfect storm. Within days, he felt weak, dizzy, and not quite right. His blood pressure fell too low at times. His lab work later showed kidney stress and potassium concerns. Leonard wasn't careless. He was afraid. He thought he was protecting himself. And that is why this mistake is so devastating. It is born from anxiety, from old habits, from the desire to control the situation. But medicine is not guesswork. If one drug has been stopped, stop it. If a new drug has been started, do not quietly blend it with the old one. If you are ever unsure whether two blood pressure medicines are supposed to overlap, ask before you swallow. And here is the really important extension of mistake number 1. This is not only about Losartan and Lisinopril. It is about the entire mindset of medication improvisation. Splitting tablets differently without approval. Taking a spouse's pill because it's basically the same thing. Restarting an old dose because you had some left. Taking an extra one on a stressful day because the reading was high. Seniors often think the danger is in forgetting medicine. Sometimes the real danger is in taking too much liberty with medicine that was never meant to be flexible in that way. Amlodipine, Losartan, and Lisinopril are effective drugs, but only when treated with respect. Now let me pull all of this together, because if you remember only the mistakes, you will still miss the system, and the system is what protects you. First, take your medication at the same time every day unless your doctor has specifically instructed otherwise. Second, do not double up because you got scared about a missed dose. Third, do not stop just because you feel better. Fourth, respect side effects instead of normalizing them. Fifth, stand up slowly and protect yourself from falls. Sixth, never assume salt substitutes or supplements are harmless. Seventh, be careful with NSAID pain relievers. Eighth, take dehydration seriously. Ninth, do the blood tests. 10th, treat swelling and breathing trouble like the emergency signals they can be. 11th, never mix or swap blood pressure medications on your own. But I want to go one level deeper, because seniors need more than rules. They need a routine that actually works in real life. So, here is the safest practical routine I recommend. Keep your current medication list written down and updated. Include prescriptions, over-the-counter pain relievers, vitamins, minerals, herbal products, and anything you sprinkle, drink, or chew for health. Put the list in your wallet and next to your medications. Use one pharmacy if possible, so interactions are easier to catch. Use a pill organizer if memory is becoming inconsistent. And before you buy anything new that claims to help with pain, cramps, sleep, blood pressure, fluids, or energy, ask whether it clashes with what you already take. Take care of yourself. Stay steady. Stay informed.